Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I got a special guest, Alex Kuhn here. He is a coach that coaches other coaches, but he helps people with, with the experience running an agency and selling it, and then also being a sales leader, but also a swim coach before. Like he is really focused on leading people and helping people. He has a company called Born to Lead, and that's going to really help a lot of people. We're going to dive into some specific tactics because me and Alex, we do a lot of the similar things. We coach coaches. We help a lot of people. We have similar backgrounds with marketing agencies and sales. And so we're going to dive into his story, his origin story. And then toward the end, we're going to talk about some more tactics. So make sure you stay till the end because we'll dive into what he's doing and how he's been successful. And that maybe that will give you some ideas of how to scale and grow. Everybody that's listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And down in the description below, there's a free gift I want you to be able to have as you're listening in. If you're wanting to build an online business or you're wanting to scale, I have a free workshop down there below to help you be able to do building a media team, get consistency with ads, build a media team, everything you need around everything. That's going to be a really good resource for you. Go check that out. Alex, as we're diving into it, one of the questions I ask everyone that's on the podcast here is, what is high performance? What does that look like? What does that mean to you? I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, high performance to me starts with safety. And the idea is that for so many people, we think of this idea of raising our standards and growing and next level. But I do believe that at the foundation is safety and commitment and feeling like you have a place to fall down because every time you try to rise, there is going to be a moments where you fall backwards. Perhaps it's because of your business. Perhaps it's part of your relationship. Simply it could be your health. But ultimately, I do believe that the idea of actually getting to different levels of high performance starts with safety. And for me, it always comes down to three things. So number one is family and faith, making sure I'm showing up for my kids. I got a 6 and 3 year old, for my wife, for my inner circle. The second, right, is simply my health, where I need to be physically, mentally, spiritually. And then, of course, the third is simply my drive. What is the thing that actually gets me excited to wake up every single day? And I think when you have those places in safe place, it helps you start to do things from a standpoint of commitment, from courage, ultimately where you want to go. And for many of you probably listening with your business.
Love that, man. Now, to talk to the clients right now, the people that are listening, and to give some more context, better than my introduction of like who you serve, how you help them, give them some context there.
Yeah. The start of the story is to keep this not the 45-minute biography, but the 2 or 3 minutes. This was not supposed to be my life. And the reason I say that is because unlike, so many people that obviously felt way worse starts to their career because of their health or different things of where they grew up, the environment I grew up in was very much you were supposed to live an average life. You go to school, you marry somebody from school, you maybe go to college, you work in the area, you work usually at the coal mine, something small, and that was life. You go to the bar on the weekends. It was very much the idea that everybody kind of stuck around and kind of did the same thing and same thing. For every one of you that does have that heart of impact, that heart of making a difference, that mindset of going some places, for many of you, you probably resonate with that. And you're the person I would describe as a born leader, a person who at some core level has one of these three things. And this is the same thing for myself. A, you want to make a difference. You simply want to help. And why so many of my clients say, I don't know what to do. I just want to help. There's just a part of you that just literally gravitates towards people. The second is you just see a different lifestyle in your mind that maybe not be reality today. There's something in your mind that you can see so clearly that the vision that is almost an imagination for you and feels like a story to others is more reality than anything else you see. And then the third and last, but certainly not least, is like an undesirable quench to make it happen. You literally wake up every day, even on the days you don't want to get up, even on the days you don't want to do it. And on those moments where you're inside your head saying, I should quit, nothing's working. That to me is a born leader. And there's just something inside of you. And that's always been part of my story from the standpoint that at 18 years old, instead of deciding to go take the big college and go the Ivy Leagues, I went to a smaller college because it felt right to me. Instead of getting the 6-figure job out of college, I took the $20,000 a year assistant swim coaching job in Iowa. At the age of 30, instead of taking the big swim coaching promotion there that was basically too good to be true and I never thought I could get to, I want to go down the entrepreneurial route. And today, what I tell people is that, of course, of all the different business failures, and there's 37 of them to count, I've had a couple successes along the way. And what I found for me and found for a lot of my clients, especially those that if you resonate with the idea of simply having this kind of leadership inside of you, is that most business trainings and most business concepts just don't work. You don't think in terms of just sales and marketing and systems and operations. You don't think of these as buckets. You think of a holistic picture of how people need to move, how people need to feel a difference, how people need to feel a value, which ultimately means that if you are at a place where the business hasn't been working for you, just like it wasn't working for me in the first 5 years, it means there's a different model and there's a very different way of doing it. And so for me, at 2019, after selling my agency, I know Nathan and you and I kind of have shared that similar story. I took a year off to simply say what I want to do next with my life. What feels right? What feels good? What feels, important to me? And it's the first business, as silly as it sounds, that's lasted more than 3 years for me. And it's mostly simply because of the people I get to work with. A lot of coaches, a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs. But I think all of us that kind of get tagged that kind of feel like then we become just a marketing target. To me, there's a different level of family, a very different level of network, a different level of connection that I always wanted with my clients. And that's why we talk about this idea that leadership is not something you just train for, leadership something you were born into. And that's who I get to be honorably serving this day and age.
Did you say you had 37 businesses? Is that what you said?
No, so the long story short is I was one day, like about a year ago, I was on a podcast, funny enough, Nathan. They said, like, well, how many failures have you had? And I said, I've had a lot. I don't know how many I've had, but so I went back and I actually counted it. So I have started quote unquote businesses or products. I've started about 47 is what it would be now. So I've started 47 ideas. I'm very much what you call a serial entrepreneur, but actually now I've termed the coach serial coach, which hint, 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 that's the new program that's coming out. But the idea of it was is that like I did so many things, right? And it wasn't because I was just all over the place. It was because everything kind of built on top of each other. The first business I sold was a membership business. It was very much in the health mindset space. And it was about 15 businesses I kind of was trying out. It was actually based on a book I read called Black Belt. And the theory was is that you should be starting a new business every single month, and all it really meant was is saying like whatever you started one month, it should be dramatically different the next month. And that's how you learn a lot faster. So the first 15 businesses got me to my mindset business, which I sold back in 2015. And then the next 22 businesses got me to the agency eventually that I sold there. And obviously the last was, of course, I'm still in Born Elite today. But big investor, big advisor to a lot of coaches. I like having my things and different people that have passion because that's what lights me up day in and day out.
Let me ask you, I feel like most of the time people that are entrepreneurs, they're wired a little bit differently,
Mhm,
and I don't think everybody's meant to be a coach or even necessarily a business owner.
mhm,
Like I mean, I'm a big advocate for people to have an entrepreneurship, you know, arm of their life, if it's a side hustle or if it's a full time thing. But it's a not everybody's wired for it. Like I'm just thinking of like people that try to do a coaching company, they're just like they don't have the personality for it, right? They're just like they fall flat, and you're like, why isn't well, it's like you're dry as a bone, man. Like there's nothing there. Like, so I don't know, like with your experience growing up with everything, was this always that? Were you selling bars like door to door? Were you hustling llama? Like what was it that got you into realizing, hey, I want to be able to be an entrepreneur and start a business? Was your parents that way? Like I'm just curious.
yeah, my parents, there was always an entrepreneurial bug, but I wouldn't describe it as like we were, I didn't come from a money or trust fund or this huge business, right? This was ground up, but my parents and family always had some entrepreneurial. Probably the most successful for was my uncle. He did a high end wood floor finishing business and very great reputation in the Pittsburgh area, but it was really a self-employed job, right? So it depends on how you want to define. I think to me is like, is entrepreneurship like you running the business or you actually doing the business? And to me, it doesn't really matter. If you're making money out of thin air and create something, I think to me that is one of the most impressive things anybody can do, regardless of what the business. But I do believe this. I do believe that I don't know if it's entrepreneurship or leadership. I do believe talent. Like, I could never, as much as I love to sing, I'm never going to be a singer by any stretch of the imagination. So I do think business to me is that you are trying to find to make it as easy as possible. And you're trying to find talents that match a very specific business. And to me, that's the end of the game. So for many coaches and service providers, many of them want to coach, but they're, like you said, they might be as dull as a doorknob. So they may not be great in front of the camera and doing VSLs and getting there and speaking, but they can take quote unquote that coaching skill and they might have an architect mind. So they may be fantastic at creating courses. They may be fantastic at creating SOPs. There's so many other ways. I think the biggest thing is that if you can accept what you were born with as your talent, I think it opens up more doors than, quite frankly, trying to force yourself into something that you aren't.
And realistically, like, just because I should probably state this, is that there's different personalities for sure that aren't the best with coaches, but it's also a skill that you have to craft and create and really kind of learn and lean into. And so it's like being able to communicate, even in sales, it took some time to kind of get into it. I think there's some people that are just naturally a gift of gab, but there's elements of like sales that you have to like really start to hone in on understanding like how to ask the right questions, how to lead the conversation, and then marketing is the same way. And so I can only imagine that being a coach, that it really kind of focuses in on like, hey, well, how can I help people? How can I serve people? And I think it's comes from the heart of that. And I feel like not only just being an entrepreneur, but there's probably an element of the impact that God's wired us to have, to want to help as many people. And if you have that people first mentality, I think it then comes for the service base that's focused on other people.
Mhm.
Why did you get into this specifically in coaches and helping coaches compared to other things where you can coach, marketing agencies, or you can coach in doing sales, or you can coach in other, what made you lean into being coaching coaches?
Yeah. The funny thing is that it's something I've always, this is going to sound hilarious, but it's always something that gravitated away from. Because I do see, and I'm sure you see this too, Nathan, right? A lot of coaches that simply were not successful in other ventures that said, hey, this might be an easier path for me to build a business. Right or wrong, I think it did bring in so many people that didn't have the heart and soul and mindset of what to me coaching was. And I saw this really early. So a lot of my message has always been about, how you show up as a leader, how you build a leadership based model there. And it wasn't until about 8 months ago where we just looked at our numbers and like, hey, 75% of these people are coaches. They just really want to build an incredible, scalable, high impact, high different coaching business. And we had a process system and what I quite frankly think a performance model that really helped them. So we kind of leaned in. And I give a lot of credit to my team because they were the ones that were like, I'm like, nope, I don't think we can do this. And I'll point out Eric on my team being like, Alex, you've got to do this. Like, you're literally those people that are looking for this, you are doing a disservice them by not actually putting that message out there. And so she literally got in my face, said, it's your fault if a coach that you could have helped wasn't helped by you because you didn't have the guts to put the message out. But we made the changes. And so that's what I think to me is really important and why I always kind of shied away from it because my coaching background was in sports. It was as a college swim coach. It was all those different trainings. I'm not an ICF certified coach. I'm not, and whatever the acronyms we have today. I don't see the Tony Robbins. I don't see the Alex. I don't see them as coaches. Like, I look at coaches when I take my 6-year old son to wrestling, 3 days a week. That's a coach. That's a person that's there when my son's being a jerk and he's like, sit down and listen. That's coaching. Good times, bad times, ups and downs. To me, that's what coaching is. Just being a face on a video. I get it. I understand the model. I understand the business model. I 100% understand it. But to me, coaching is a very different level of intimacy. And that's why I talk a lot about the idea of do you want to be a coach or do you want to be just running simply a education slash training business? And they're very different entities to me.
Yeah, you brought up too the difference between being self-employed and running a business, because I think there is a big difference. Talk about some of those elements.
Yeah. I think the first thing is that if you are simply a self-employed person, for a lot of you that are coaches or solopreneurs, right? We are now in an age and day where there's a race going on. I know the masterminds I'm in, they're talking about who is going to be the first solopreneur billionaire. Who's it going to be? It is a question that's being asked right now. So this idea of like being self-employed versus having a business that runs for you there, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're asking simply how much time intensity are you putting in the business yourself versus everybody else running the business. And at the end of the day, there's just more risk when you are not in the day to day business there. And for some people, that is the game. That's what they love. That's what they love to do. For many coaches, I would say like 95% of coaches I work with, they want to be involved. They want to be coaching. They want to be speaking. They want to be doing that there. So the game for them is not about getting them wholly out of the business. It's about minimizing to them what they want to do inside the business there. But for many of you, if you're coaches and you really want to have something that's running without you there, it is a very different skill set. It's a very different strategy. It's a very different trust level there. And ultimately, just building a coaching business is not going to be good enough in the long run. So, the first thing I tell people is that you have to make a decision, whatever that is, that you are not going to be a part of the business. Your brand's not going to be part of the business there. And ultimately, you're trying to build a coaching business that does not literally have you involved in any day to day. That's a hard thing for most people to feel.
Yeah. Talk about that transition for you because there's different levels, like you're saying, of that growth. The individual solopreneur all the way up to where you're running a business and you're maybe checking in here and there. And that I think is the ultimate goal because I try to categorize freedom in three different buckets. And I'll get your take on this too, is it's financial freedom, right? Time flexibility and freedom, and then also impact of like why we've created this for our why and our drive and keeps us coming back to creating content and creating resources and value for people, right? And if people can have more of that purpose and that freedom, I think that's ideal for where people want to live in and create something that they're really proud of. Uh, but I want to get your take on this with coaches and the leading up from where you're at right now up into running the business because there's a lot of different areas in business that you have to keep your hands in that overwhelms people with most. One of them I know is like bookkeeping and the finances. People hate seeing that, or the numbers for running ads, or their sales team, or doing all the leads and outbounds and inbounds. Like, talk about like your team dynamics and what you had to go through leading up to the team you have now.
Yeah, there's like to me, there's like these 3 different stages in these questions there, and I always tell coaches is like and it's just because 'cause they're the same questions I had for myself, okay? And so these marks are very simply, I always say like, it's around 20 to 50K per month is a first mark that a lot of coaches are trying to hit, a lot of service providers are trying to hit for themselves. Then the next is somewhere between 100 to 300, and I know those are big numbers for some people, by the way, but it just depends on your industry and what you're selling. So, that's a second checkpoint there, and then, of course, then the third. But the first checkpoint I talked to you about is like, Leslie, when you're getting the 20 to 50K per month and it's just simply you, a VA who's taking a lot of the work off your plate there, you might have a little bit of one-on-one group, kind of like literally some simplicity to it. You're getting probably mostly your leads from inbound. You're not really working hard. You got the content dialed in, a little bit of outreach. Hey, you might be working 20 or 30 hours a week, and that is a great life, right? If you're making 20 to 50K per month, for most coaches, that is a dream for a lot of them. I get it. There's a question. We have to sit down. I always say we have these, we call them paradigm shift calls in our world. So we're going to have to sit down and say, hey, do you want to go to the next level? And the answer normally is, yeah, of course. That's the point. But I also think that's part of the adrenaline of just getting excitement. So we talk about what the next step looks like. We give a very clear picture. And so for many of these coaches are going from this 20 to 50K to the 100 to 300K. It's that, hey, you're going to have 3 specific divisions in your business that are going to have to be built ultimately. So, number 1, where do you want to be in this business? Do you just want to coach on the group calls? Great. We got to really define that. That is your area there. The next, and from their perspective, is like, how is your sales and marketing going to be? Who's in charge of that? Who's going to be in charge of your operations and tech stacking there? And then third, ultimately, if you just simply want to be part of the group and you start with one-on-one, you're going to have a coaching team. You're going to have people that are going to be serving your clients or client delivery. And what that means is that your budget, your expenses go dramatically up, which means that all that profit you have now, you're going to have to use most of it, if not all of it, to build and scale to the next level. Is that what you want? Are you okay being lean again for another 6 to 12 months? Is that what you're looking for? So that's the next stage. And of course, people get through it. but it's a very different skill set. It's a very different skill set of letting people figure it out. It's a very different skill set of actually trusting your team to get it done. It's actually letting leaders lead, which means you have a higher level employee who's not just going to ask you what to do, but they're going to do it and challenge you, just like I told you the story about Erica. If you want that, great. It's a beautiful thing. And then finally, when you get to that 100 to 300K mark and you're thinking to myself, like, hey, you are in your zone, you're probably working less, you're living off both the profit and you have a very specific salary that you're taking out of the business. Then the next question comes is, what do you want to do with this business? Do you want to try to keep working on it, try to maintain it, try to keep it in that scale, or are you trying to go the $1 million, $2 million months there? And I think for most coaches, that's probably literally probably the top less than 1% of coaching businesses in the industry are around that mark. And there's a very different level of branding, very different level of competition, very different level of ad spend, very different level of talents you have to do. So it's taking what you've literally done and going to another level, because what got you to this place is not going to get you to the next place. And a lot of times it's going to require tough conversations with yourself because you probably aren't good enough today. And the team you have there is probably not good enough to get to that next level. So those are the conversations I have with a lot of coaches there. And I don't say this in a negative thing. I say this in a let's be prepared so we can say, I'm committed to this through the good times and bad times.
I think one of the challenges that many people have is trying to figure out who do I hire and when, right? And how do you find the A players? Because it's like your nephew down on his luck or someone, that you care of just got unemployed and you're like, hey, let me throw him in. I can use him. Like, how do you go through your vetting process of hiring your A team?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe this is just a little bit of a different take, but I don't think you want a team with only A players. And talk to
Okay.
people about this because you need to have A players in the right spots, right? You need to have A players that are in charge of a budget, in charge of a very big result in your business. But if everybody is an A player, if everybody is literally, I just want to grow, I just want to grow, I just want to grow in your entire team, you're going to have higher turnover. One of the biggest mistakes I made in one of my first business was I hired the best people for every single role, no matter if it was just, the basically our call center, right? But everybody wanted to grow to another level. And if they couldn't find that opportunity in our company, they left and we had to start all over, even if we did have the system. So my advice for everybody is that you just have to be very clear where you want your A players and where you want your B/system players, the people that are happy, they're content, that's their dream. They want sustainability. They want security there. That to me is how you actually build a sustainable business there. So you have the people that have more of a profit share, revenue share. They have the bonus structure that are going into it. And what I find a lot of times is that you want them at least in these three positions. So your first is you do want somebody that's going to be in your sales side. Like you need an awesome salesperson. You need somebody who's going to match the type of sales and quite frankly is going to push you to, quite frankly, get more stuff done, get more leads. You want them asking for more, pushing you, kind of quite frankly, grading you a little bit, annoying you some days there because they want to grow because they are based on a commission as well as obviously what they get in. The second person you want is simply your operator. And this usually tends to be for me, it's always been the right hand person, but they are the person that are you're trying to find your most loyal person there. And usually for coaches, it's the opposite skill set. These are the people that are going to push in terms of getting you out of the business and creating more efficiencies and creating more operations and systems and processes and pushing AI as much as you possibly can. So you want that person, you want them to kind of be tied to the business success as a whole because usually they don't have some sort of commission structure there. And of course, usually the third there, as silly as it sounds, especially for the 100K people, you need somebody who I would think is that it's either a marketer, somebody's going to take care of all the social media or whatever you're doing paid ads wise there, or B, you need somebody who's actually going to be a coach. So if you like the selling, you still like being a part of that side, you need somebody who's going to, when that client meets them for the first time, they get the same feeling when they meet you. It's like, I love this person. I love working with the person. So you have to kind of figure out those three positions are the first ones I would recommend finding.
That's a good take. What's your team stack look like right now?
This one we've kept lean. So Erica's in sales. We have Tina that's in operations there. We have Marissa that's in social media. So We are actually in the process. So we actually do much more group oriented style. So very simply, I can do much more of the coaching side there. And then we usually have accountability coaches that are kind of doing the Monday, Wednesday, Friday check in with all of our clients there. So right now we have a team of 7. Of course, obviously the other people are workers that are helping the social media side. They're helping Erica with the lead generation side. Of course, we have an agency doing some ad work for us. But to me, when I think of my team, I think of Tina, Erica, and Marissa. Like those are my A players, and they are the ones that were having, 15-minute calls. They're the ones that are doing the, hey, I did good today, I did bad today, right there, as honest with themselves as possible. We practice something in our company called radical honesty. I'm sure a lot of people have heard this kind of concept, but the reality is that every one of our team has to say what they failed at today. So basically the idea is that every day there should be something you said, I did not do good enough today at. And here's why. And why we do that is I think it creates a different level of empathy because it gets us to showcase, hey, where can we improve, where we can get better, where we can get bottlenecks. Because there's things, of course, it's great to start with success. But I find when we start with these things where it's like, hey, this is the area we can improve, great. All of our A players are problem solvers. So we go and solve problems immediately. So it helps us kind of stay a little more on top of everything. And also, like, I think for, my perspective is making sure our clients are successful.
Dude, that's good. That's good. What have you found to be the most successful way that you've generated leads? I think there's so many different ways to approach it. How have you had the most success with everything
Yeah,
so far?
every way, and also none of the ways. So I tell people there's like a million ways to do this. We are in the day and age that I think one thing I actually want to share with somebody. So for a lot of us, we get the term paid ads. Like you got to do paid ads. Paid ads scale. You can't do other things. And I'm just going to say it's kind of BS. We have a team right now that's generating leads on every single social media platform. We have somebody, we call them our relationship coordinators. Abigail is an example that she's on our Instagram, but we don't do the AI thing. We made a conscious decision of being a people to people company and having AI support all of our systems on the back end. So we actually have somebody that's out in the front having the conversations in other people's DMs and communities and really trying to build relationships. I actually found right now that's been probably our best method. Paid ads right now, we're still kind of dialing it in. We're trying something a little bit different with it. And so we're kind of at like a 1.7 to 2.3x. Yeah, I got the 35x campaigns out there. Everyone loves to brag about. To me, I've always found that works best for us is that the 3 things that are working best for us right now is paid ads to do a little bit of a lost leader to get them into more of a relationship nurturing system. But for our high ticket ones, I found using social media as a relationship manager has been our best strategy. Not trying to just get them onto a sales call, but to really kind of take them through a whole relationship process. Big fan of Dale Carnegie's sales training for everybody out there if you're looking for something. And that's kind of where I've taken a lot of my mindset and processes and put it into it. So account reps, taking care of our prospects as if they were our current clients, sending them customs, whatever they need for us there. It helps us get more people to our webinars and our free trainings. And eventually when we invite them to sales calls, it's a lot easier to get that yes when we do it that way.
Do you have webinars that are just recorded or do you do them live?
No, I do them live. So we do everything live. In fact, what we do is our clients kind of know this that most people that came into our world, I'd say it's 82% of our people have come in through an actual client call. So we don't do free webinars. It's like, hey, here's my marketing webinar. Clients know, hey, this call, we invite clients, we invite guests. Every one of them knows that somebody else came through it. What our clients like about that is they see it as a networking opportunity that we're basically bringing in a new network for them to actually meet, engage, build relationships with out the side. That's part right is they actually get to be kind of like our sales force at the same time because somebody's there. All these calls are interactive, right? We're having them treating them just like our clients. And what happens a lot of times is people come to these calls and they're just expecting a whole new PowerPoint webinar, marketing webinar. So there's a little bit of a shell shock when it's like, hey, tell us where you are. They're actually being treated like a client. And the reason I like it that way is because I want them to imagine what it's like to be a client in our world, not just to be sold to. From there, they have a better understanding of what they're actually getting to, which means that we actually have a much higher retention rate than I think most in our industry do.
Yeah. I want to get your thought on you had mentioned you have teammates on each platform. You're saying they do like outbounds and engagements and connections like that?
Yeah, a lot of outbounds, engagements there, but really they have the same thing, which is just obviously a DM. And usually I will have like very simply, our strategy goes like this. There's an automated DM from me that says who I am, what I do. Thanks for connecting with me. Know that I will send, if you get an audio or video message, it will come directly from me. If you get a written message, it'll be with Abigail. Abigail does this. She's in charge of that there. So she might be asking you questions just about your business, where you are, sending you things that you're having bottlenecks with no pressure to jump on a call or sign up or give us your email. But if there's anything you're really looking for, just ask, and Abigail will be happy to support you with whatever you need. Kind of doing that approach is just kind of, it's for most people, it's refreshing. For most people, it feels a little bit different. It gets them out of the idea of like, am I really talking to you, Alex, or am I not talking to you? But every single day, I'm usually in the morning. I'll send about 10 to 30 videos at morning, 10 to 30 videos at night that are like 5, 10 second ones that Abigail or Tala or anybody on our team will kind of send to me saying, like, hey, you should probably respond to this person. They had a question. I just didn't know how to ask. And that way, people feel like they're being seen and heard. And I think that's a big difference to what we
Yeah.
do that's a little bit different than others.
How often are you doing webinars?
Have 3 coaching calls a week. So we have 3 group calls a week. So I'm just doing 3 calls a week. They're about like 60 minutes each call. So they're not long, but I mean, it just depends on how to do it. But we did that there because I feel like maybe it's just my swimming coaching background, but I think just meeting people once a week, it's like, all right, I'll see you next week. And 7 days, it's a long time. A lot can happen. So to me, it's this idea of like, hey, head coach, here are these practice sessions. If you want to come to them, great. If not, listen, we're all adults, totally up to you. You want to come to it, but we'll hold you accountable. We'll check your performance result. We'll check your metrics there. We will definitely do that. And of course, like we said, we have the accountability coaches who they can meet with 5 or 15 minutes just to get a Q&A and kind of get some things figured out.
With you're strong guy. Looks like working out is a big core aspect of what you do. How has that helped you be really efficient and really kind of build, what you have right now?
Yeah. Yeah. My, health is, it's making me blush, Nathan. Health has always just been a big thing for me. I just think it's important. I think it's important to have interest outside of business. I think there's these ideas that this is just me. I'm not like most people. I get very obsessed about things. So I've always been obsessed. I've always loved this. So it's like when I say obsessed, I mean like when I'm there, I'm here. So this podcast is the most important thing to me. So it's just how I've always been. And then outside of my world, right? Having kids now, right? Basically between 4 and 8 o'clock, that's my world. But outside of that, like I think a lot of things that I find is like my life isn't just my kids or just my business. My life is mine. So what do I want to do with it? And the thing that's always just stuck with me is that the more that I kind of stick with a workout regimen, set a specific goal wherever it is, the more I find joy and happiness. I probably have trained my body to only create dopamine and serotonin receptors when I work out because I've been doing it since I've been a little kid. And nowadays, like my big thing right now is very simply, I want to be a great golfer, and I'm trying to do some uh, fit like bodybuilding training. So like, hence, like you said, like last year is probably like down 10 pounds. So like I could feel the difference there. I can feel that strength coming back. And for me, it's nice. It's nice, I think, and just for me, I like feeling strong. I like being able to pick my 6-year-old up above my head with one arm there and just, play with him in a way without worrying about getting injured or worried about getting exhausted or, all the things that I think we see in webinars where somebody's like, they're talking, you can tell they're getting tired at the end of the day. I don't know. I think there's just something that if you're not taking care of your health, I mean, honestly, how do you coach if you're feeling winded and feeling exhausted and feeling like crap? I don't know how people do it.
You talk about the systems and how you built your team. And I know for me, there's rhythms and systems that I try to create for, my wife and my kids so that we have time together, we have vacations, we have how do you build out those cadences throughout the year?
So I'm much more. The funny thing is that I do a lot of systems, but I think the best system is very simply daily measurement. To me, if something that's important to you, you should be measuring it every single day, right? So when I'm in the gym right now, right, and I'm trying to get bigger, right? I'm trying to add more muscle. Well, there's really a couple things I need to track, right? Number one is my calories and protein. Number two, am I progressively overloading on very specific weights there, right? And then number three, I'm doing test weights. So to me, I've always been just a PR person. And that's like the thing we teach our clients too, is that forget what somebody else's KPIs or milestones or metrics. Let's literally figure out these three things right now. Number one, let's figure out the outcome. Just whatever that outcome is. We're going to measure it every single day. If it's sales and you haven't had sales in 60 days, great. We're going to add zeros and zeros and zeros into that mark every single day because I believe that creates neutrality mindset. I think the best mindset training is simply looking at your numbers every single day. The second is very simply your success trackers. And that's usually the biggest thing most people mess up, I think, especially as leaders. We tend to think of sales calls, meetings, or, like whatever the ads, whatever those marked leads, campaigns coming in. But there's a lot of times some things that are different for people that I find it's really important to make sure what your success marker is. So, for example, did you send out 10 appreciation emails this week? Just appreciating people. Did you literally write a post that you qualitative wise thought that was like one of your best work? So to me, it's figuring out what success markers actually are moving your business forward and making you feel better versus just simply let's pick the numbers that everybody does there. Okay. And then third and last, short and least, is that there's a four-piece criteria that I like my clients to go through. I literally do it with my kids. What'd you do that you felt like was successful today? What should you learn from and grow from? What is a new insight that you want to remember for as long as you possibly can and create a new declaration? No matter how big or how small, what is a new level of commitment you're doing? And it's something I'm teaching my little kids. It's something that my wife and I do on Sundays. It's just something I think is really important to ask my clients to do it. That's actually our first meeting on Monday is, hey, it's a performance Monday. So let's do our check-in here. Let's talk about it. Let's get real. Let's get vulnerable. Let's look at the stuff. To me, I think that sets a really good track, not just for the week, but I think it helps you build better systems in the long run.
And then in terms of like vacations and off time, do you do that? Do you,
Yes. Yeah.
or is it just always like grind and grit and
Yeah, most people think
focus?
I'm like, working all the time. My clients are like, "When do you sleep?" I take a lot for more time than people realize. So you won't find me in the office on the weekends. Like literally Friday at 3 o'clock, I am on the golf course. So I will see you later. Have a good weekend. Whatever you want to get to me, whatever my team gets to me. So I think people talk about boundaries. The word I use is covenants. What are covenants in your life? Is there a covenant that you have a date night with your wife? Is there a covenant that you have time with your kids? Is there a covenant you're taking 2 weeks to get away from everybody? Is the covenant to simply work on your health? So to me, like a lot of times when I talk about this idea of like taking time off, it's part of the covenants I want to make for myself to go out and for everybody here that struggles to take a vacation. This worked for me when I was like working every single week nonstop there. What I decided was instead of making a vacation just about like getting a break from the business, I got something that got me excited about it, right? So, for example, like right now, I'm planning a golf trip in August, right? So I'm taking 3 days. I'm going on a golf trip with some friends and stuff like that. So, hey, it's got me excited. And what that does is instead of me thinking, oh, I'm just getting away from the business, which kind of makes most of us feel lazy or feel like we should be doing more, etc. It gets me to say, I got to get stuff done faster so I can go do that. And I think the more you do those things by instead of just saying I'm taking time off, but getting excited about doing something else, and heck, it could be going to the beach for all I care. I think that helps you take more time off, what I think does rejuvenate you in the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you talk about faith. I want to get your take on this because it's real important for people to really look at their creator and look at why we're wired to want to help people. Like what's driving you and how do you help your clients really kind of recapture that focus?
Yeah. Yeah. Been very I say blessed. We are what I describe as not a demographically niche company. We have women, men, all different races, all different cultures, all different religious backgrounds. And it's probably, when I think about the work we do, I'm very grateful that we've been able to do that because a lot of times I think that it's very easy to just simply niche down and just have one specific person that you're only working with in all areas of life. So when I speak of faith, I don't really share all the things about my faith publicly there because I want people to understand that faith to me is something about having a higher power that's serving you. And most people know I'm a Christian at heart. So obviously I practice Christianity. It's very important for me to have those set of rules and guidelines in my life that, again, I use that word covenants. There are things that I want to live by there. And obviously being a human and having made mistakes and working on the sins and working on my pieces. But what I try to talk to my clients is that to me, if this is just about impacting lives, then we're not going to a different level of where we need to be. For me in 2019, after I sold my agency, I tell people think that selling your business is the greatest moment in your life. And it was the most terrifying moment of my life. And the reason why is because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I was working so hard to build a business, to make money, to make a difference, to do all the things we hear online that I forgot. Wait a second, there is something way more to this work that we're on this planet than anything we create. And it took me a year to figure that out. And it doesn't mean I don't fall into the trap of wanting to make more differences and making an impact. Of course, I've got those very real goals. I do understand that at the end of the day, I do have a higher power, a higher purpose that is put on this planet for and has nothing to do with me. And so, what it's helped me achieve very differently than maybe when I was building businesses years ago is that I don't ride with the good days or the bad days. I don't ride with the ups or downs. I try to ride with the idea of, am I serving myself to my faith to the best of my abilities? That's what I'm being judged on. And that's how I'm continuing to live my life and obviously continue to breed those into my kids' value systems.
I love it, man. What I want to get your thoughts on AI. Like, what are you doing right now with your team to use and leverage AI?
Yeah, there's three things we're doing. I have a this year in the I'm sure Nathan, you probably feel this different take on AI. I think the biggest thing with AI is that I don't believe it's actually going to remove coaching or remove jobs like people think. I think if anything, you look at history of technology, and technology has always gone through the same three processes: internet, heck, the microwave, whatever you want to think about it. So whatever you're thinking, okay? So first off, there's the wild, wild west. There is the fear and excitement, and it's just all over the place. And that's where all of us are right now. For as much as people want to standardize AI or anything like that, if this is how you use it or this is not how you use it there, ultimately we are in the wild, wild west. So hopefully for every one of you, just get to be creative and innovative for what it is that you need to be. Then it's going to be standardized, just like the Google search, just like YouTube. This AI is going to be standardized for everybody to come into. And then third, it's going to be a commodity. It's just going to be part of the expectation of how everybody's living their lives. That's how I see the trajectory of AI. How I'm using it, I want to tell everybody how I'm using it. I've actually got a couple ways I'm doing it. So number one, I'm creating Alex AI. So for every one of you there, I'm literally basically taking everything I do from my journal entries, from my thoughts, from my clients, from my family, all the things, and I'm pumping it into Alex AI that is private to nobody else but to myself. It's kind of the way I think of it as if you wanted to go back and look at yourself and grow, wouldn't you want to have a conversation with yourself? Best times, worst times, how you've done things, because it's so hard to extract so much from just simply your brain by just sitting there through meditation. To me, Alex AI is very simply the way I get to talk to myself and have a really good conversation of what I want to do that's protected from any other information out the world. Of course, AI, everybody here, we're using it to speed up the process. Everybody on my team is using AI. Everybody on my team is putting their information in AI so we can have AI become the SOP and process system that makes everything better, as opposed to just literally having Excel sheets and everything written down. So that's the second thing that we're doing. The third thing that I'm telling every single coach is you want to build your program into its own private AI chat. StoryBrand is doing that right now. There's a lot of companies that are doing that. Of course, you might see it, but very simply, at the end of the day, the course, the program, it's going to either be replaced or vastly supported by having an AI engine that is protected behind a paid wall. My advice, if you're a coach or somebody in information, you should be doing that immediately. And then my fourth bonus is you should be sending SEO information about yourself into AI so you start coming up when people are searching topics about you.
That's good, man. I love it. Alex, how can people connect with you and learn more about what you do and how you serve people?
Yeah. So, Nathan, just really appreciate you. Like you clearly care about what you do with this podcast, and I just wanted to thank you for that. I keep it very simple, everyone here. Like you guys know, I am on social media. The easiest place probably to get a hold of me. And by the way, Abigail will directly reach out to me to make sure I reach out to you. So if you are listening to this and you want to connect with me, go to Instagram. Just type in my name, Alex Kuhn, Kuhn. I'm the first one that's going to pop up. So follow, just send me a message there. Abigail will personally let me know, and I promise to personally respond to you as well. To truly have a genuine conversation. Whether you're a coach trying to grow your business or you're just trying to up level your network, love to meet you.
I'll put that down in the description as well as that resource to be able to help you guys grow and scale. Again, thank you, Alex, for being on, and thank you for tuning in on today's episode. And we will see you on the next one.